it's so easy to get lost. It's so easy to wake up one day and be like, who am I? So much of my identity was tied to the money. I feel like I'm in limbo and I'm being redirected. I just don't know which way to go. Or maybe I'm already on this path, but it just feels so unknown that I don't even realize that I'm experiencing it. I remember last year approaching 40, hitting 40, then being 40. In that summer season of my life, I said that I'm just going to move and live life as if I'm retired. I didn't know what that fully meant. I just knew that I was exhausted from my job. I was not happy. Certain things I was doing in my life, like playing basketball and working out, were starting to shift how I even felt about certain things I was doing, but I couldn't quite pinpoint what I was actually missing. And it got to a point where I was like, have a few bucks in my savings. I don't really have any new income coming in, and I'm just going to start over from where I'm at, take a pause, take a break, and retire. So I approached a lot of the beginning of my 40s with this mentality of, let me just pause, let me hit the brakes. Let me not continue in this new decade with the mindset of go, 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 go. Let me stop, reassess. And I know that's a privilege that not everyone has the ability to do, but I encourage you to find the time and the space to do so, because it will make a world of a difference. Even if it takes you 6 months or a whole entire year to get there, the healing just doesn't ever stop. But the work, it needs to get done. And sometimes the work is just being still. Sometimes the work is praying. Sometimes the work is journaling or reading a book that's going to shift your perspective on life and help you in areas where you're struggling. And for me at the time, I was struggling with trusting myself, trusting God, trusting the process. And I realized, okay, if I invest and take the time this year to learn what trust means, then I'm just going to commit to that. And one of my first exercises was to retire and getting comfortable with doing this again, because in 2018 I did quit my job, but I had money in my savings and I was making a living. I was still making money. I was still in the process of quitting. I stayed an extra month at my job to collect some checks, and then I started building my roster for my business. So I was doing this with a full-fledged plan where money had always just existed and it was constantly coming into my account, whether it was a lump sum, a little bit, but it was something. Fast forward to this go around in 2024, I was approaching it from a standpoint of, I'm truly exhausted and I'm not happy with the direction my life is going. And at the time, I thought it was just my career. And this time last year, well, not this time last year, but the summer of 2024, I said, after I turn 40, I'm just going to spend the rest of the summer in this mindset of retirement, of not and re-entering the rat race the same way I would have naturally after a vacation come back. I want to see, what else am I supposed to be doing? You know, that question again popped in my head. Like, there has to be more to life than just pushing papers. There has to be more to life than just collecting paychecks. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to go within. And I wanted to start challenging myself and doing things that I wasn't comfortable with doing. And that was sitting and existing and not making money. And what did that feel like? Maybe it was a little bit of self-sabotage, avoidance, I don't know. But something came over me last year to just learn how to trust the abundance and relearn how to appreciate what I did have in front of me, but also challenge myself to the point where I wasn't just doing the same things and creating the same habits as I was, although I was still trying to maintain my lifestyle of going out and having fun and partying and traveling and eating at new restaurants or whatnot. But that adds up. But it wasn't until I started working out and doing step classes, something that I'd never done before, that relit a fire in me that I had put out a long time ago, or at least had just been dimmed. And it woke up a beast in me that I had missed. I missed that part of me that was challenged, that was competitive, that was energized, that was eager to go out and do things. And I was like, this is part of what I'm missing, but the money is just starting to deplete quicker than I had anticipated. And I was like, starting to feel myself starting to get depressed. And if you remember from my first post where I was talking about my vlog last week, where I was talking about butterflies and the significance of seeing my, a representation of the confirmation of God, I still wasn't at a point where I was reading the Bible, I wasn't going to church, but I still believed in God. And above that, it was just, I always just relied on my faith. But it was this particular summer where I heard the words, faith without works is dead. And God has a funny way of sending these messages through people that you love or admire or even follow on social media, because I heard this from a YouTuber that I'd been following for the last, I'd say, decade. We kind of grew up together. She's also in her early 40s and had many transitions in her life. So she has a voice that I trusted and I trust, right? So I remember sitting on this couch and doing the numbers and realizing, am I really built for this retirement lifestyle if I don't have money coming in? What is that going to look like? And then I'm sitting here, there was tears, I was pleading, I was just really going through it last summer. And this wasn't all just one day. This was months, from the spring, summer, fall. And I was realizing faith without works is dead. And I remember her saying it, but didn't click or register the first time she said it. Because I wasn't reading the Bible. I hadn't opened the Bible truly, even years, decades. What I'm getting at is that was a quote, a Bible verse that I'd never heard before. And I remembered it hit me, but it didn't hit me until I had to go back and re-find that video and rewatch it and really listen to what she said. And I said, I'm in a place right now in my life where I feel like I'm in limbo and I'm being redirected. I just don't know which way to go. Or maybe I'm already on this path, but it just feels so unknown that I don't even realize that I'm experiencing it. But it was hearing faith without works is dead. I was like, what does that even mean? And then I realized I've had faith this whole time. Faith that God's going to come through, God's going to bless me, kind of going back to that arrogant mindset of like, I just need that one video to hit. I just need that one contract to hit. When in actuality, I wasn't putting in any work in me to fully develop myself, to fully develop my character, to fully understand who it is I need to be in this season. Not who I want to be, but who I need to be. And that's what really kicked off this whole journey of now being here, consistently posting and rediscovery and getting my finances together. And I did have to go through many seasons last season. I had to go through many months of just panic and angst and depression and sadness, because so much of my identity was tied to the money. So much of my identity was tied to, when my money's high, I'm high. When my money's low, I'm lower than low. When it's even, I get anxious. I need to spend it. I need to put it here. I need to put it there. And mind you, debts, credit cards, student loans, teeth loans, the debts, I had no assets. I was starting to tap into other savings accounts that I never thought I would ever touch. because I'm anticipating, okay, I have this trip. I couldn't say no. I couldn't set boundaries for myself because I wanted to be there for everyone, but also change my ways. But I was deprioritizing myself in order to show up for others. And that's a recipe for disaster, even when it's related to those that you love the most or like the most. You still have to find ways to prioritize you and making sure that you even know what your priorities are, what your values are, and the goals that you have, because it's so easy to get lost. It's so easy to wake up one day and be like, who am I? So that's where I had to realize I need to do the work. And I even posted on my wall, real big, do the work. At first, I thought it was just the work that was in my inbox. Then I realized, okay, the work is actually talking to God, praying more, not being afraid to pray, not being afraid to have an intimate relationship with God, not being afraid to open my Bible and think that I'm just going to be judged and persecuted and ridiculed for everything, and that I'd have to like quit all the good stuff that was in my life when looking back now was not good for me. But that's a journey, a personal journey that you have to go on. I'm not saying that my journey has to mirror your journey. I'm just being used as a vessel to talk about my experiences, and I hope that it sheds light into your world where there is darkness. I don't want to sit here and be like, do everything the way I did it. No. Take my experience as however you want it. This is just my journey and what I'm going through, but how it's impacted me and what I was missing was the work aspect. And no, it doesn't mean going to report for a job, because at this point I was still retired. But now I was starting to transition into more of a world that included God and building that relationship. So it was little by little. I went to the verse, I rewatched that video, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start over, but for real this time with a plan. I don't want to be so impulsive to the point where I'm just like in the mud. Like I just keep running into the mud every time. I know I'm going to get out, but it's going to take me longer than I even need it, and at the same time, I know this is not my plan. So I started to read my Bible. And it's so funny because I was cleaning my nephew's room and he had a bunch of Bibles, and God makes no mistakes, because I just grabbed one randomly from his stack when I had originally organized everything. I was like, oh, I'll just take this one. Lo and behold, it ended up being my Bible from high school. I just grabbed it. I could have grabbed, there's several Bibles in there. He also goes he's gone to Catholic Christian schools, all the works, right? And I was like, okay, God, I hear you. And I just started to do the work. And little by little, it added up. And I started to change my ways and really keep the promises that I made for myself. And not just having faith that everyone's going to do everything for me or that God's going to instantly answer my prayers, but I need to get the lesson. I need to understand the work that needs to be put in. Does it mean I delete certain apps off my phone or games? For me, it was yes. Does it mean that I have to create space between certain people that are in my life? Yes. Does it mean that I have to change the way I make money, how I spend money, how I think about money? Yes, yes, and yes. And all of that was uncovered the moment I decided to do the work. And this was late summer, fall, into the winter. And now we're here in 2025. It's like mid-March. And I'm still doing the work. That's why I have that up there. Do the work. Because any moment where I'm feeling lazy or impatient, or I feel like I'm losing trust or I'm losing faith, I'm like, okay, what is it that I can do? And it, like I said, it's not always related to work. It's not always related to working out. It's not always related to going to immediately help someone or to post here on YouTube. or anything like that. Sometimes it's just me sitting down in complete silence. No phones, no music, no journaling, no talking. And even when my mind is racing, I just, I ask God, like, I'm spiraling, God, please ease my mind, give me clarity. Learning how to pray again, learning how to talk to God. And not in this formal way that's like, our Father who art in heaven. Like, that's a part of it. But I was for real. And I'm going to talk about this more throughout this series, but I really dug in with God. Like, what is this work that you speak of? And God each week was revealing a new step in this process. And I just stayed on that course. Anytime I went beyond it, it was like immediate repercussions or immediate no or immediate stop, like signs and messages and destruction, or even just subtle like yo, slow down. Because like I mentioned before, I was very much in the space of just being impulsive. I'm like, right now I'm gonna retire, and this eventually evolving into, okay, I enjoy my business, I enjoy creating, but I also know God has a bigger plan for me. So how do I infuse all of that without constantly always doing that alone? And I realized this whole process, this whole idea of trust, learning how to trust God is submitting. Learning how to trust myself is believing in myself. And then through that belief, it's going to create consistency. So I took a lot of the practices that I had applied before I quit my job into this whole new world and realm. And like I said, we'll talk about this more. But it was when I heard faith without works is dead. It just snapped my brain into a few different pieces that some parts I kept, other parts I was like, okay, I need to get to work, but I feel like I'm not doing the right work. So what is it that you need me to do, God? So my journal entry started to change. The way I spent my time started to change. The way I started to see and view people started to change. I started to get more in tune with God. And certain things that I would hear God say would happen the next week. Even just like in my gut and in my intuition, I felt like it was getting stronger. And I was like, okay, God, I'm here. It's scary, but I'm going to just have faith. I'm going to walk by faith, not by sight, and continue to learn from you, build with you, love you, and just trust that it's all going to just fall into place. And being here in real time, this is literally my prayers in real time. Because had you seen me 3-4 months ago, I was down bad. Down bad. But sometimes you need to go, well, I don't want to speak for everyone because I don't wish bad stuff on anyone. But I know me. And I'm so grateful that even in times when I was down, God got me back up quicker than usual. And I felt that presence and I felt that love. It was a love deeper and greater than any love I'd ever felt in my life. And I was like, I don't want to lose that. So I'm with you, God. God is my boss. I retired from the BS and I'm moving forward with the Lord, truly. And that's just that, all that. Faith without works is dead, and they always say the faith of a mustard seed. It's all you need, and that's all I had. Because even in times when I was afraid to talk to God, when I was afraid to go to God, when I was afraid or ashamed or guilty, down bad, crying, desperate for change, I had to be patient and endure and even just experience what it felt like to lose again. I think I was just in this state of trying to avoid loss and to avoid going backwards, when in actuality, God was preparing me to shed a lot of stuff, which we're going to talk about next week. And losing it all. So stick around, stay tuned. I hope you made it this far in the video. Drop a "you got this" comment if you're still here 20 minutes in. I'm so grateful, and we're going to keep this conversation going. I'm in it to win it with God. And if you have any questions, comments, let me know. Hit me up. Love you guys. Life is a blessing. See ya.